Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Weekly for a Saturday. What will it be? Saturday, September 11th, 2021. Wow, it's been 20 years. Or I meant we all remember, unfortunately. But we're going to talk a little bit about Vegas today. Kind of some of my general impressions of the city, some things I saw, places I went. I'm not really going to do sort of a narrative or, kind of talk specifically about my experiences. I may do a live this coming Wednesday, and in that case, I will go ahead and talk in more detail about some of my responses, thoughts about some of the things, and just the general narrative of what went on. But don't really want to do that today. We're going to try to keep these shows on Saturday down to about 15 minutes. I think that's enough. And then when we do the Wednesday show, we'll probably try to cut that down around 10 minutes. I mean, most people only watch about 8-9 minutes of the show anyway, so why do 25 minutes all the time? So before I get started, I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention, and I won't mention them by name because I'll forget somebody, but mention all the people that I had an opportunity to meet up with in Las Vegas, many of them for the first time, others for I don't know, second or third time in some cases. We had some surprise visitors who showed up, and like I said, it was very cool. Everybody that I met was just awesome, and so generous with their time. They made sure my glass was never empty, which may have been a bad thing, but they were great folks. We also had a lot of folks that were feedback from I guess the people on the couch. I can't remember what Vegas BB calls them. Couch crew. There you go. A lot of people on the couch crew also constantly throwing in their insights. So that was a good time. But we're back on the coffee and spicy chicken now. Off the vodka for sure for the foreseeable future. I had sort of a thought the other day when I was chatting with someone about the trip, and I said I would give it a name. There are some nights I will never remember, but there are people that I will never forget. So it was a good time. 7 days is a long time to be in Las Vegas. I think about Mark and Liz. I think we're there like 9-10 days. If you're going to go for that length of time, here's a Vegas tip. Slow down. You've got plenty of time. If you're going to go really hard, maybe just make it a long weekend and give yourself 1 day to recuperate. But yeah, we had some good experiences. Like I said, we'll probably talk about that in a live at some point. As you notice, we didn't do a bumper coming in. We really don't do one going out either. Again, you've all seen it. I don't think it's that exciting that people want to watch 30 seconds of my odd videos. But if you want to see something like that, I'll do some shorts that I'll throw together for you. But so let's get into the sort of, the broad picture of what I thought of Las Vegas this past week. I arrived on the 1st, went back on the 8th. It was almost exactly a week, at least from the time that I reached the airport in Kansas City until the time I left the airport in Kansas City. It was almost exactly 168 hours. So minus the travel time back and forth, basically, I was there at exactly a week and 7 nights. The airport did not feel crowded. It certainly was not crowded on the way out from Kansas City. There was no security line at all. My flight was 2/3 full. There seems to be mixed feedback that I've gotten from other folks that traveled out by plane or traveled home by plane. A lot of folks had 1/3, half, 2/3 filled planes. Other people had very full flights. I had a very full flight coming back. I don't know if there was a single seat available on that particular flight. So I don't know what the nuances are there. I flew out in the evening. I flew back sort of midday. There's probably more demand for a flight around noon than there is for one around 7:30. So that probably is part of it. But otherwise, it was the same day of the week. So who knows? And in Las Vegas as well, coming back, very minimal line in security. I probably wasn't in line more than 2 minutes to get through security. As I say, arriving in Las Vegas, basically by the time I got to the baggage claim area, my luggage was there. So it was that fast. Again, Wednesday night, probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock. No problem getting a lift. I probably waited 10 minutes. I paid like $15. I was probably, from the time I got off of the plane until I got checked into my hotel, was probably 45 minutes. There was no line at all at the Cromwell. It did say at one point, I pre-checked in. I did that anywhere I could on this trip. And it said that to proceed to some sort of a kiosk. If you do that at the Cromwell, there is no kiosk, at least not yet. But there was also no line at check-in, so that worked out just fine. I was on the 8th floor. Generally, I wouldn't advise being on the highest floor at the Cromwell if you're there over the weekend, because you'll get a lot of club noise. In that case, you probably want to go down to the 5th or 6th floor if possible. I did notice there was a white noise machine inside the bedroom, so I don't know how much that would help, but midweek Cromwell, not very busy. As many of you know, they took out all of the sort of player-friendly games, that little bank of VP that they had at the front. They no longer have very good rules on craps or blackjack or roulette or any of that. And of course, they don't have the beloved Barbary dog anymore at the little Eat Well diner. The casino's still very pleasant, comfortable, not usually very crowded. Most of the games you want, maybe not a lot of them, but never had a problem finding a game I wanted to play. Cocktail service generally good there. There would be some gaps from time to time, but that's to be expected just about anywhere. People go to lunch, go to break, their shift changes. But everybody, I said, at Cromwell was very friendly. In fact, the second day I was there, the waitress I had the night before seemed to remember me and said hello. So you generally don't find that in the larger casinos. And again, from your room to the corner of Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard, 5-6 minutes. So a good spot to stay. We did spend a fair amount of time at Ellis Island, had a pretty good time there. Again, the staff there was really friendly and helpful. I will give a Vegas tip as far as food. You get a lot of Ellis Island food tips. Check out the Metro Pizza place, particularly on Thursday. On Thursday, they do 2-for-1 slices and 2-for-1 pies. The slices, I think, top out at $3.75, which is already a deal. 2 of them for $3.75 is insane. So if you're in the neighborhood, we always hear about the barbecue spot. We always hear about the cafe, but that's a really good deal as well. But yeah, we had a good time there. The front porch, front yard, I can never remember what it's called. Good spot. Thing I'd recommend there, if they do flights of their brewed beers, which I thought was probably the most interesting sort of drinks I had during the week. And then their appetizers are really good. So you definitely, if you've got a table, order some flights, order some appetizers. It's a good option. But generally wasn't as crowded, although when we left, I think, what would that have been, Sunday night? It was pretty crowded when we left Sunday. So there you go. We spent a lot of time at Stage Door, as we know. It's a dive bar. It's become a little gentrified, I would say. But I think if you go there with friends, it's genuinely a pretty safe place to be, and they have the $1 Budweisers. So I had too many of those. We also hung out at Casino Royale, another place for good cheap drinks. Not as cheap as they used to be, but a wider selection probably there if you want to check that out. Went to the stadium. Highly recommend it. Think it's very cool. That being said, I haven't been to a lot of new sports stadiums in the last decade or so. So maybe I was overly impressed by that. Of course, it's indoors, climate controlled. A lot of interesting vendors in the concourse. For example, like Holstein's, the place at Cosmo. They had a stand there. Pretty limited beer selection when you went to buy from the vendors, but there may have been some of the sort of restaurants in there that may have had some other beers on draft. I don't know. But it was like Coors Light and Modelo. So whatever. Seating comfortable, good sight lines. The sound was not the best, I would say. But if you have an opportunity to see a game there, definitely do it. I think it's worth it. And I'm sure it'll really be hopping during the NFL season, which is coming up very soon. I think the game is the 13th there. So what's that? Monday Night Football, I guess. Excuse me. Also spent a couple of nights at Aria, becoming one of my favorite hotels. Did not gamble a ton there, but overall, casino is fine. And like I said, I really like the rooms there. It's just really comfortable. The beds, I think, maybe are my favorite beds in Las Vegas. And it just feels like a very upscale kind of place, which I guess it is. And just has, I just like the design of the place better than really any of the other MGM properties I've stayed at. Certainly better than, to me, a lot better than Bellagio, even though I know the properties are fairly similar in terms of price and that sort of thing. Hey, we're at 10 minutes, 5 minutes to go. So let's see how many other things I could cover. Downtown was crazy over the weekend. It was Labor Day weekend. So keep that in mind. I think it's typically pretty crazy over the weekend. Walking from the D to Circa was a bit like navigating your way through, I don't know, a bunch of people at a concert or something. It was busy. It's very busy. In fact, I would say the city was quite busy. I was surprised there were so many people there already Thursday afternoon. But I suppose a lot of people were making a very long weekend of it, and that may explain some of it. But the temperatures were out of control. You normally would expect things in the sort of 90s. I think, had a record high at one point as 109. So you never know quite what you're going to get in Vegas as far as temperatures. There's a pretty broad range. The average, see what the average for that day might be 90 degrees. But your range could easily be 80 to 100 degrees or beyond that, 75 to 105. So we didn't have any precipitation, really not a lot of wind. In early September, I have noticed there tends to be a little bit more humidity in the air. And I think I would say that was true again on this trip, but not as much as it has been in some previous trips. South Strip, the night we spent some time at Luxor and Mandalay Bay was not very busy. That's, again, not atypical. That's often the case. I suspect it picked up over the weekend. But again, that was an area where there wasn't a lot of food options available, at least during the week, particularly late at night. So keep that in mind as well. Went out to the Orleans for one night because I could get comped, and it is what it is. The rooms are still fine. The casino is still spacious. There's a lot of games, pretty decent odds, so definitely worthwhile. And then spent the last 2 nights up at Encore. I'd stayed at Aria 4 times. My first time at Encore, and I really liked it. Just a little bit smaller. The casino was definitely smaller, and I definitely there was less lines anywhere. Cocktail service was much better at Encore, at least consistently, than at Wynn. So I actually probably played 3/4 of the time at Encore. Not as many sort of restaurants or things like that. There's a separate pool, which looked nice enough if you wanted to hang out by the pool. And there was a nice little snack bar shop kind of at the valet area that I grabbed coffee and some little bit of food a couple of times, and definitely worthwhile. I think it's just like goodies to go or something like that, so definitely worthwhile. So that was kind of it. I didn't do a lot the last couple of days. Obviously, we had the big birthday party, which was great fun. Thanks to all the folks that showed up for that and was kind enough to wish me a happy birthday. It was certainly a wild night for sure. I don't think I'll be repeating it exactly the same way. Now, we did have a bit of Vegas news that I thought I'd bring you before we wrap this up. Main Street Station opened up the morning that I left town. We had some discussion about going down there, but by the time I got up and around and cleaned up, I was ready to go to the airport and just go home. But it's nice to see Main Street Station finally reopened. I don't know what the crowds were like. I suspect decent. And the buffet is open as well. I think it's just breakfast and lunch most of the week, but I do think they do dinner over the weekend. And I think breakfast starts at only like $19, so that's not bad at all. It looks like there haven't been really any changes there as far as their table game play or anything like that. They still have their the brewery there. So it looks like basically Main Street Station is coming back exactly the way it left. It'll also be nice to have that little bridge back and forth to the Cal. That was very depressing the time that I walked down there and it was closed. So there you go. And they have done away with those little scratcher cards you used to get when you got 4 of a kind or better. Now it's sort of automated through the machine. So if you have one of those cards, I guess it's a collector's item now. If not, well, you won't have to worry about it. You typically only win a couple of bucks, but it was kind of a neat promotion. All right, so anyway, we are creeping up on 15 minutes, and I think that was a pretty good synopsis. If you have any questions in general about Vegas and what my experiences were like that, like I said, we may do a live this week. We'll talk more in detail about the debacle that was my week, and we'll be back again next week with another episode of Vegas Weekly. Until then, I hope that you have a great, lucky, and healthy week, and we will see you real soon. Bye-bye.